I guess it's time to get going, right? So, how many of you guys are not from Denmark? Okay, good. So now you know why we're speaking English today. So, but that's just the case. I'm glad that you showed up. I know it's a strong agenda today, especially I think Cormac Hogan is doing vSAN, and there's a lot of other exciting stuff today. And what we're going to be talking about here today is VC Operation Manager. And I've called this session Awesome Customization. My VMworld title for this session, it was how to customize your business needs with VC Innovations Configuration Manager. And the title went from this, and now I try to make it a little shorter, hopefully to feel like what's awesome, right? Maybe. So, how many of you guys are actually using VCOPS? Yeah, some guys, and the other guys in here, are you thinking about it, or where you at? Some guys think about it. Maybe you should take a look at it. Yeah, VMware is really trying to push adoption for the VCOPS product, and personally, I feel like it's a really great product. I'm not trying to sell you any VCOPS. I'm just here today to share my experience with it. And my experience, it comes from as a VMware trainer and as a consultant when talking to the customers. So that's kind of my experience. So I don't work as a system administrator, but I go to see a lot of different environments and help them out and make VCOPS perform for their specific business needs. And that is what is important to know, that everybody wants some different things out of this product. And today we're going to talk about customization, because in the VCOPS product there's a lot of stuff that is very generic and everyone can use the same stuff, but every business is different. And that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today, like how to customize it. Yeah, so let's get started. Short introduction to the VCOPS, then we're going to talk a lot about the custom user interface. We're going to dashboards, super metrics, custom reports, widgets, interactions, and I'm just trying to highlight some of the cool stuff that's in the product. Not all of the features are easily accessible. Some features you still have to create some XML files and put them on the server and do some stuff. But yeah, that's also the fun thing, right? And it's not too easy. But everything is evolving, and yeah, it's just like in the good old ESX days, right? You remember when we had to configure ESX server, and you had to configure the NTP manually from the service console, and all that stuff has just gone into the client, right? And in some aspects, it's still like this when the product is new, but it's evolving and more and more, and especially when we're going to take a look at the next version, it's going to be much better. So, what I want to address today is the custom user interface of vCenter Operation Manager. To have access to the custom user interface, you actually have to have the advanced version of the Operation Management Suite. So if you're running on foundation licensing or you're running on standard licenses, you can't really use the features we're going to be talking about today. So think about that. If you really want to do the customization, you need to go advanced. But yeah, and it's so pretty much that's where we are today. If you look at the custom user interface, and the first thing you'll probably notice how many of you guys have actually been to the custom user interface? How many of you are logged into the custom user interface? Okay, so only a few guys. The first thing you notice when you go to the custom user interface is pretty much that, whoa, why doesn't it look like the normal VCOPS visual user interface? Where's the blue color? Why is the black color? And in some aspects, it feels like you have two user interfaces for the VCOPS product, and in reality, that's the situation today. I've heard, and hopefully in the next version, the custom user interface and the standard first will merge. But today, you actually have to go to another place to find this custom user interface. You see the custom user interface. You see a lot of you see all the tabs, so you can see all the dashboards. And the VCOPS product come with, when you install it from scratch, it always had 10 or 15 dashboards already created, and you can use those dashboards as inspiration for what you're going to be create later on, or you can just use those dashboards. And also, a big resource, of course, is the internet and blogs and stuff like that. So if you have problems and all the stuff, there's also like a lot of inspiration like for bloggers. And so use Twitter, use the blogs, yeah, use Google, or yeah, try to use Bing. I don't know if you have any success with that yet, but you could do it. The custom user interface has a lot of features, like, and of course the main feature in the custom user interface, that is to be able to create dashboards, and that is kind of like the very like what you see when you log onto the product. But besides dashboards, you also have some options of creating something called a super metric. You also have key performance indicators where you can say this metric is very important for my performance perspective. So if this metric is breached, then you want to know. So there's a lot of stuff. You can create tags and groups, and there's a lot of stuff you can actually customize this product. And we're just going to take like some of the features out of the product and talk about it today. It would be easy like to do like a full day on the custom user interface, because there's really a lot of cool stuff you can do. Log into the dashboard, to the custom user interface, log on, and what you will be able to do is of course create the dashboards. And creating a dashboard is very simple, like in a simple state, because you simply get 26 widgets in total to choose from. Some widgets could be like the one we're seeing here, could be a heat map, it could be a generic scoreboard, or some top-end analysis widgets. The heat maps, they're very good to find hotspots in your environment. Perhaps I want to find the data store with the highest latency. I want to find the virtual machine that is using the most memory. So like in a map, you can pretty much like define what the block should be. Should the blocks be a virtual machine? Should it be a data store? Should it be an ESX host? Should it be the data center? Or should it be an ESX cluster? And that's like a very easy way to like visually find hotspots. You can also take these maps and actually turn them around and make cold maps. So you pretty much just change the colors from so blue is like, so what is not being used? What is really idle, and where do I see like no latency or no IOPS going to these data stores? And then you can, whoa, why do I have this data store and there's no IOPS? Perhaps it's a local data store in the ESX host, but perhaps you just like had too many data stores and you had some problems in the environment. Well, not problems, but yeah, it was too complex, and some of the stuff you just forgot. Yeah, exactly. Besides, this is just some examples of widgets. Another widget I really like to use, and this is the generic scoreboard widget. So this is what you want to show your bosses, right? So you take like these 6 big scoreboards, and then of course you make them all green, and then the boss will, whoa, our environment is running like it should, and everything is good. But the scoreboard, which is like a really powerful tools, like if you have to like put some stuff up in the operations center, you want to put it on a large screen, a big monitor, a projector, whatever. But it's a very strong widget to know like when you should act to something, because you select what the scoreboard should show, and you select when you should change the color, and you have like, when you take these scoreboards and you add in super metrics, you can create some really awesome stuff that is very unique, and you can create the stuff that you need in your environment, and not just like, because I guess of course most of the stuff is like maybe fits everyone, but a lot of stuff is still like generic to you guys, and you need what works for you. And the third widget I'm just going to cover shortly here is this top-end widget. That's also a very popular widget to use in the VCOPS product. And pretty much like you can say like top-end, so you select the number. Is it top 10, top 5, top 15, top 20? And you use this widget to pretty much like find I want to see the virtual machine, with the host with the most CPU usage. I want to see the host with the most ballooning. You can like select every metric you can find in vCenter. You can select that in the VCOPS product and use that metric for yourself. An example of a dashboard that could be very useful in an organization. This could be the storage dashboard. The storage dashboard in this example is a dashboard created for the storage administrator. If you're a vSphere administrator and you're both vSphere administrator, network administrator, and so on, then of course you can also use this dashboard. But also like in a larger environment, a bigger corporate where you have all of these silos, then this would be like a very beneficial to like have dashboards for the different business units. So you could like create dashboards for the storage team, for the networks team, for the guys who are administrating the Exchange server. or the SQL servers. You can create dashboards to these guys and share them to the guys who want the data. And this is kind of like a way to like create a dashboard using the heat maps. In this configuration, we're looking at all the data stores. We are looking at and it's by cluster basis. And when you like select a data store, then you'll have a metric graph that will interact with the heat map. And that metric graph, it pretty much, in this case, it shows us the physical device command latency, because the heat map shows physical device command latency. So this is like one way like of taking this product into your environment, and not only you as a vSphere administrator, but also like giving values to other guys in your environment. Another example could be this dashboard I call my forensics dashboard. So this is pretty much like a dashboard. This is more like when you know the counters and you just wanna you're going to look something like in a manual way. So this is kind of like the way I use this dashboard is like, instead of going to vCenter and look at all the stuff in the vCenter, especially when we go to the web client. How many of you enjoy the web client? Oh, you enjoy it? Cool. Maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm too conservative. I don't know. I gotta learn to enjoy it. But this is just like, instead of going to web client or the vSphere client and look at all of your metrics and working with your data, then pretty much you can also go to the custom user interface. So in the top left corner, we have like the resource selector, and then we have the metric selector, and then we have the metric graphs. So pretty much you can find a resource that could be a virtual machine, a data store, host, or whatever, and then you get all of the metrics in the metric selector, and then you put those into the graphs. And what you will quickly realize is that this tool in the vCenter operation, you don't think, oh, now I'm just doing the same stuff as I'm doing in vCenter. But no, you're really not doing the same stuff. Because some of the good thing about this product is that vCenter does roll-ups of your performance data. So when you look at real-time data in vCenter, you get like a data point every 20 seconds. But as soon as you go beyond the first hour, you will get like a data point every 5 minutes. And if you look at data that's from more than 24 that happened more than 24 hours ago, then actually you get a data point like only 2 data points an hour. So stuff gets rolled up. But the VCOPS is always running at a 5-minute interval. Never better, never worse. So if you look at data that's 1 month old, you won't lose like all of the information. But you could definitely say that if you want to look at real-time data, go to ESXtop. Go to vCenter because you get it every 20 seconds. But if it's not real time, if it's not in this specific hour, then this is the tool you want to use, because this is the best tool you get. And not only does this tool like show you the data and how it's presented, but this tool also gives you a lot of options. You can see all of the small buttons like on top of the graphs. And some of the stuff that's very unique for this VCOPS product is that it uses something called dynamic thresholds. So it for every metric and for every virtual machine, for everything in the database, it calculates the dynamic threshold of this object and the metrics. So when you go to this graph, you see the blue line, but not only do you see the blue line, but you can also be able to see like, is this within the expected dynamic threshold? So now you don't actually have to like, so it's very easy for you to say, hey, this machine got a value of 16, but 16, what is that? Like you find some crazy value and you have no way, you don't know how to actually like make any sense of this data. But at least what you'll be able to see is that below, or is it below, or is it over like the dynamic threshold, and is this the normal behavior? And that's some stuff you don't get in the vCenter database. And this is pretty much like when I go to customer sites and they have some performance issue and they ask me to look at stuff. This is like some of the tools I really, this is my go-to tool instead of using the vCenter performance graphs. When you configure all of these dashboards and the widgets, a very important thing is what you're going to be using a lot is the interactions. So in an interaction, it pretty much means that when you configure a widget, you can tell it where does it receive its data from. Some widgets, like the resource selector, it doesn't have any receiving widget. But if you look at the metric selector, when you select the metric, then that data will be fed into the next one and to the next one. So you can create these interactions, and that's a very, very, very simple and very, very powerful feature. And it's actually very simple. You go and you find your widget, you configure it, and then you say, oh, my metric graph, it will get the data from the heat map VM. And my metric spark lines, it will get my data from what I selected in my host health scoreboard. So creating these interactions is very simple in the simplest form. But what you can do, like when you want to customize this product and go to the next level, you can actually like customize these interactions. So you have the possibility to tell the product, when I select a virtual machine in this widget, what metrics do I want to see? So instead of like, it's just like select some defaults or select whatever. So pretty much you can like say, so what could be some important performance metrics for a virtual machine? Anyone? CPU usage. You want to see CPU usage. What do you guys, maybe you want to see some ballooning. Is any ballooning? Is any swapping? How's the memory usage? Maybe you like have like specific like 10 metrics you always know, like when I have a virtual machine that does not perform like it should, then I always look at these 10 metrics. But just imagine like doing these interactions and actually finding a virtual machine. And just by selecting a virtual machine, all of these, your 10 preferred metrics is instantly populated into the metric graph. And in that sense, you'll be able to work very quickly like discover what you want to look at. So that's just one way of like change this product and actually making it your own. When you do this customization, you pretty much have to select an XML file, and these XML files you have to create on your own. There's already some XML files you can use and take a look at, but pretty much like if you go to the VCOPS user interface virtual machine and you go and look at this path, then you'll be able to see this XML file. And you can take the XML file, you can change them, you can go on the internet, find some XML files, but it's actually pretty easy to make these XML files because you have different areas in the XML file. One is for host metrics, another for virtual machine metrics, data store metrics, and then you just put in the metrics you want and give it some name, and then when you look at the widget, then you just select it and in the interaction mode, and then the XML file will be available. And that's way it's very easy to actually do this. And this is some of the stuff where you feel like this stuff should be in the product in the GUI, and it will be, but just not yet. But if you like really like go on the internet and dive a little bit into the product, you don't have to like really do deep dive. But there's a lot of extra functionality just below the surface that you can start take advantage of. And this is just like one thing you can definitely use in your environment. And Nikolai is online if you want to know. Maybe I should turn off my Wi-Fi. Yes. So this is just like to show the interactions and some ways of doing this. So on the left we have like a heat map widget. And what I've done is create some XML file, put into the bottom widget, and so whenever I select something on the top, it will just automatically go into the bottom with those specific metrics I want to see in the graphs. And the same I've done like on the right. I've created this host health scoreboard. So this is all of my ESX hosts in my environment. And now we're just like looking at the health value. So the health value is like, it's a very special value because what does health really mean? So the health is kind of like what VCOPS thinks like in a bigger picture, like this virtual machine is performing at 87, but that's green. And normally when you see 87 green, then you just think, I'm just going to ignore that. It doesn't really matter if it's 87 or 89. Like in the bigger picture, this is running good. So the health is kind of like all of the metrics combined and all of the dynamic thresholds. So this is like a very easy way to find stuff. And what I've done, like I have one host that is actually running with Orange with a health score of 40. So I put in this custom interactions and made sure that when I select a host, I can select exactly what metric spark lines I want to show. Because perhaps you know what normally would be the problem with an ESX host if you get a bad health. And what you want to see. Perhaps you want to see the memory usage, the CPU usage, and the same thing is any ballooning on the host, is any swapping, and pretty much just by creating these very similar XML files, you will be very easy to like find the data you need right away. You also, of course, in the VCOPS product, you have some other ways of approaching this, like when you have a bad health. It's not so much for customization, but within the product, when you see something that with a bad health, you will basically go directly to the root cause, because there's a reason why the health is 40, and of course you shouldn't manually try to look through all metrics to find it, because in the interface, all the metrics that is outside the normal dynamic threshold, they will have a yellow color instead of blue color. So pretty much you can just go and look, so what yellow metrics do I have on this virtual machine or on this host? And it will be very easy. It's because it's experiencing different storage latency. It's experiencing higher CPU usage. It could even be experiencing lower CPU usage. So it can go both ways, because in the VCOPS product, it's not only because you use a lot, but if you use a lot normally and suddenly you don't do anything, then that is what's going to breach your dynamic threshold. So it's, and try to think about it in the vCenter. In vCenter, you have this alert, right? Alarm, saying something like, if you're using more than 80% CPU usage for 5 minutes, then it's red. But is that really, how many of you have this alarm still configured? But in most cases, right, a lot of virtual machines, if they're running 100% or 80% CPU for 5 minutes, is that really a problem? Is that really, of course, for some virtual machines. And this is where VCOPS, actually looks at the data that is coming in and analyzes on it and creates a dynamic threshold. And so you get the right alarms, and you get the smart alerts, as they call it, instead of just like raising a flag like every time something is happening that maybe happens all the time or every day. So that's what you want. Like, you want to find the problems and not just because somebody's using a lot of CPUs. So this is just the host health scoreboard, showing that we have the scoreboard, we click on something, and we create the interaction, and we put in the custom XML, and I've said, like, this is what I want to see. This is a specific host metrics I want to see on my virtual machine when I click it. And this is on a host basis. As you as a VMware administrator, of course, you will probably know what to look for. But you could also like take this idea of the interaction, like if you have like a dashboard for your Exchange team, for your SQL team, for your Oracle team, for different, and then you say like, perhaps you know a lot of good metrics that you should like take notice of. So if you have some of the virtual machines and applications not performing like they should, then you can also create these interactions like for your users. So they will be able to help themselves. And you just give them what they need, and if something is red or whatever, then you can say, this color is red. And perhaps they can solve it themselves, or at least when they start talking to you guys, they pretty much, you already know what is wrong, and you can bring this information to them. So it's very important to notice that VCOPS, of course, it's for the vSphere administrator, but with the customization and the dashboards, it's also about making sure that the other parties in your organization get access to this data. And And one more, the host health scoreboard. Host health scoreboard, the heat map, and then of course we do the interactions and we select exactly what we want to see in this one. So that's just one very important feature, the custom XML, the custom interaction using the XML files. Some other things I want to take note of is kind of like these top-end widgets. That's very powerful to find out like some stuff in your environment. In this example, we're looking at top 10 host memory usage in kilobyte widget. So if you try to read the numbers, so can anyone tell me actually how many gigabyte the first host is using? Exactly. So that's very funny. So you got this like how much memory do you have in your host today? 2, 3, 4, 500 gigabyte? Maybe more, I don't know. But at least that number, it really doesn't fit in kilobyte, right? It's not good to represent that number in kilobyte. So what do we do about that? And one thing we can do about that, in this example, I've just like changed it. I've just renamed it to top 10 host memory usage megabyte, and then now it changed to megabyte. But was it enough to rename it? No, that wasn't enough. But what you can do with customization is you can create supermetrics. So you can take the normal host memory usage in kilobyte, you take that metric, you make a supermetric that simply takes the metrics and divide it by 1024, and you have it in megabyte. Because you can create your own metrics, and you can kind of like change it. And this is just megabyte. Perhaps it would be even better to do it in gigabyte. But whatever you feel like, what you're doing. In this example, we see the widget configuration and what we select. And on the left-hand side, we see that we select the usage in kilobyte. And on the right-hand side, on the other widget, we can see we have created a supermetrics, and all supermetrics is like under the category supermetrics. And we have created the supermetric, and we have called it host memory in megabyte. So that's just like I think that's perhaps the most simple supermetric you can create. And in this case, you can use the supermetrics. You can take different stuff and add them together. You can divide it. You can take different stuff like and see, I want to see the network throughput, but I want to see the receive and the transmit. And then you can sum them together, and that could be a metric to see like the total throughput. So there's so many possibilities, and like when you start looking at the supermetric to really bring out the stuff you need and the way you need it. So this is just like to show you the supermetric where we change the one metric to kilobyte. So pretty much we just take a sum of the memory usage, and then we just divide it by 1024. So that should be a very simple metric to create, and that should be very easy, very simple to create. So pretty much the supermetrics, it's all about like an entity that describes the performance of a resource. The supermetric can contain a formula, a combination of one or more metrics from one or more resources. And to take some examples of this, like what other metrics could we do instead of just dividing, changing something from kilobyte to megabyte? Perhaps we want to see like, so I want to find the virtual machine with the highest, have the highest amount of ballooning on a cluster basis. Perhaps I want to see the average balloon per VM in a cluster. I want to see the number of VM running in the cluster. I want to see the total sum of ballooning in this cluster. And I want to have this data in megabyte instead of kilobyte. Can we do that? Of course we can do that with the supermetrics, and it's very accessible actually. But when you start working with the supermetrics, actually you don't start by creating the supermetric. So what you start by doing is creating supermetric packages. And the way I normally do it is I create a supermetric package for virtual machines, for clusters, for data stores, for hosts. So you kind of like create, because when you create a supermetric, you decide on at what level in the inventory am I going to apply the supermetric. And if it's a host, then you put it into this group. So the first thing I always do is pretty much create the groups before I've created any supermetrics. And when I've created the groups, then I go into the VCOPS, into environment details, and then I find my host, and then I say, oh, these hosts, if you can see the red arrow, saying that, oh, so my host is going to use the host supermetric package. My data store is going to use the data store supermetric package, etc., etc. And in that sense, when you create the supermetrics, you just add into the package, and you will like 5 minutes later, you will be able to like go to that object and actually see that it's starting to gather data. So also remember that when you create a supermetric, you have to wait 5 minutes until you can see it, because VCOPS works on a 5-minute interval. So wait 5 or 10 minutes, and if it's not there, then you did something wrong, and you know that. So that's just how it is. So supermetrics, how to go to advanced, go to supermetrics, say I want to create a supermetric. Then you can select like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to average the value? Do you want to sum it? Do you want to count it? Do you want to max it? Do you want to find the minimum? So there's a lot of options to do with these metrics you want to work with. And pretty much when you've done that, you'll like, so what resources is the virtual machine? Is it the counter? And in this sense, you like use this wizard to go through it, and at the end you'll get a widget. And in this case, I just wanted to see how you selected, find on a cluster level the VM with the highest level of ballooning. So pretty much like we find the virtual machines, we find the balloon kilobyte in number, and we pretty much like create we create this formula, the max n virtual machine memory balloon kilobyte, and then it says comma 2. And comma 2 is because this metric is actually on a virtual machine, but we're going to apply it on a cluster. So we have to like tell the virtual machine is kind of like is a grandchild of the cluster, because it's a child of the host that is a child of the cluster. So that's why we have to add in 2, that it has to like, when we put it on at cluster level, that it has to go a little bit further down to actually find the metrics it's looking for. So this is just like 4 examples of it. And at the end, I just like take the metric and divide it by 1024 to like, because it's the same stuff here. I don't want this stuff in kilobyte. I want this stuff in megabyte. That's what I need. And then you could take your supermetrics, and then you can create it on your, for instance, on your Scoreboard dashboard. So right now, my VM with the highest amount of ballooning is 665 megabyte. The total ballooning is 985, and my average balloon per VM in the cluster is 43 megabyte. And ballooning and my number of VMs in this cluster is 23. So this is just like one way of taking the supermetrics, like, and taking some stuff in the VCOPS and changing it to like, so yeah, hopefully you'll get some ideas of what you could think, like what scoreboards you need and what could be what your business want to see and what you want to see as an administrator. And you can of course select the color, when should it change to red, when should it change to green. So this is just like one very powerful dashboard to like put on a screen there. Of course, you can also like just make it static and show the boss that everything is green all the time. Yeah, we're running. Everything is green. That's what you want to see. Do what you want. So that this is just some of the stuff you definitely need to look into when creating your dashboards. So the best thing to do to get started to working with this is just play around with it, see what happens, and like go on the internet, find some resources, watch some YouTube videos, or yeah, whatever happens. Download some VMOG or VMworld presentation. There's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of good ideas out there. Yeah, so the different counters. So what I was asked to tell you about is that in Denmark, I know this guy Michael Monberg. He's from VMware in Denmark, and he has asked me, Frank, do you think we could? I'm sorry, this slide is in Danish for the non-Danish readers, but pretty much like we have the VMware user group, but what Michael wanted to do is pretty much like create like a user group for VCOPS. So like it's all about VCOPS, it's all about customization, it's all about like, so how to use this product. So it's very important that it's user to user and not just like Michael to the users. So people who's using the product and people who want to share the experiences and gain experience from others. So yeah, you're here today, so perhaps some of you guys would also like to be a part of this user group if you have the product. So you don't actually need to have the product, but just be interested and perhaps you get the product sometime, because this is what we're going to be talking about. So yeah, as he says, like he said, like, have you slimmed down an oversized virtual machine? Have you looked at performance at a software on your host? Found the bottlenecks in your storage? And if some of the stuff is that you actually found it because of VCOPS, that's kind of like what we want to share, like with the community, and just be better at all this customization stuff and figuring out like how to use it. So yeah, he created a LinkedIn group. So pretty much if you want to be part of this and you want to do that, take a look. You'll probably go out on Twitter and LinkedIn and different social medias. So yeah, hopefully we'll see some of you guys there. I think it'll be fun, just like the user groups. Yeah. So that was just like a small commercial slide, but it's all in the spirit of the user group. So what I want to talk about at the end is custom reports. In VCOPS, you have the possibility to create reports, but all of the reports you create in the VCOPS product is what is predefined. But a lot of cases and a lot of customers who approach me say, so perhaps it's very cool that I can create this report, but I need some other stuff in the report. Why can't I get this in the report? And the answer is pretty much, well, the answer is not you can't do it, but you can do it if you really want to. That's like a learning curve. And all of this stuff is also going to change, hopefully in the next version. But this is kind of like where the feature's actually there, but the product is still like evolving like in a rapid pace. And in the next version, hopefully this custom report would be like a part of the GUI instead of configuring a XML file manually and copying to the environment. And what you have to think about, like when you're doing, like this is kind of like the visual representation of this, what you have to think about when doing reports is that when you do reports, you do it on the user interface virtual machine. VCOPS consists of two virtual machines, a user interface and an analytics virtual machine. And you do the reporting on the user interface. And when you want to do reports with different metrics and different stuff, you have to think about, why can't I do that? Well, one of the reasons is you don't have the metrics available on the user interface virtual machine, because all of the data you actually want to use is placed on an analytic virtual machine. So all of the reports already in the product is only like working on stuff that has already been forwarded to the user interface. And that is kind of like the first thing you need to do in order to create custom reports, is like you gotta like create this forwarding of the metrics you want to see in your reports. And creating the forward is not, it's not the easiest part, but pretty much it's about creating an XML file and defining what you will forward, and then that forwarding will actually start. So when you think about the reports, it's all about like, what requests am I getting from my business? What do we actually need to know? What is it in my manager? Yeah, exactly. So figure out what you want to report. And of course, and then you will start working towards that goal. So of course, like identify objects, metrics, and all that stuff you need in reports, and then you need to like create this manual forwarding of all of these rules. And when you have pretty much forwarded, I won't go into too much detail on how to forward it, but this is more like high level. But when you have forwarded it, then you can actually go in and create the XML file and create your views and reports and say like, so what do I want to see? How should I represent this data? And at the end, when you have done this, you will be able to go into the VCOPS product and you will actually find the report, and then you can just like schedule the report, or you can run it right now and you get a nice PDF, or you can go into the views because the report is kind of like what is in the views. So you can only go to the views and actually see the data you created. So you're actually able to like create your own views and your own reports. A lot of people is not aware of this, and there's not a lot of information out there on the internet. So I think at the moment, if you want to do it like right away next week, you can find some stuff on the internet. But the best thing is like reach out to your VMware representative and talk to them, and they will share some documents, or you can reach out to me, or I can share the documents. So that is pretty much like a strong feature to use. And we talk about customization today, and we talk about XML files a few times with the custom interactions, with the custom reports, and this stuff is going into the GUI like in the future. It's just like a question of when is it going to happen. But still, like the product is like, it's new, but it's still very mature. But there's still like a lot of stuff they will still do and make the product even better. So that was pretty much like what I wanted to talk about to you today. Hopefully you get some ideas about how this product can bring value to you and your business and your business owners and your users and your other administrators. And take a look at the interface, custom user interface. Of course, you need to have advanced licensing in place. Then go start building your own data dashboards with the information you need. Use supermetrics to manipulate with these metrics, and use custom reports to like report on your specific business needs and what you need. That was what the slides I brought today. So thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to come up afterwards. And So thank you, and have a nice day.